Hello. Hope everybody's doing well. Um, it's about 7:35 p.m. in my neck of the woods, so probably everybody's out and about or sleeping or whatever in Eastern time, getting ready for church tomorrow, whatever. Um, one thing that I don't know if people are aware of and whether or not they've given much thought or if they studied it. Um, is the transformation of Satan from the Old Testament to the New. Um, when you read about Satan in the New Testament, he's strikingly different than the Satan of the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, the Jewish understanding of Satan, Hebrew Satan or Ha Satan, is fundamentally different from the later Christian concept of the devil as God's arch enemy, right? The term Satan is not a proper personal name in the Tanakh. It's a title, it's a description, a descriptor, meaning adversary or accuser or opponent. Um, it appears with a definite article, ha, in Hebrew, ha, Satan, the adversary, but it functions like a job title in God's heavenly court. It's a prosecutor or a tester who operates strictly under God's authority and permission. In the Tanakh, there's no independent evil power. There's no rebellion against God, per se. There's no fallen angel narrative. Okay, and there's no cosmic battle between equal forces of good and evil. It's just not there in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Bible. Satan serves God's purposes. Satan tests God's human faithfulness or accusing people before the divine throne. Okay. He's not somebody who's out trying to oppose God, attack Christians. Read it about yourself, study it yourself. A lot of people don't, though. They just take the Bible and assume a lot of things. And so when you look at the term Ha-Satan, the adversary, it aligns with Judaism's strict monotheism. There's nothing existing or outside God's sovereign control. You don't have a demon or an archangel running around that God basically just lets go and attacks people. That's not in the Hebraic thought. Okay. So, that's another evidence of, the morphing of concepts between the Old Testament and the New, between Judaism in the Old Testament and Christianity. So many differences between Christianity and the Hebrew Bible. There's just so many. And a lot of people just believe they're fluid. They just go right through from the Old Testament to the New. That's just not true. There's so many different concepts. I mean, look at the Trinity, for example. So the Jews obviously didn't believe in the Trinity, but the Christians today insist that they did. They knew it, but they didn't really have a grasp on it. And so the Jews today, they have no real answer for it because they go to the Messianic Jews, maybe, and some of them are Trinitarian. But if you just look at the Tanakh and you compare that with modern day Orthodox Christianity, there's no comparison. They're just strikingly different. Okay, because they're not the same religion. Obviously, it's not a carryover. Okay, Judaism didn't evolve into Christianity. Christianity basically became a religion born out of certain Jewish concepts, but it's an invention of its own. Okay, so when you go through the Bible and you go through the Tanakh and you go through like verses like in Job, like 1 verses 6 through 12 and verses 2 through 1 through 7. That's the most detailed example. You have a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan, Satan, came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, "From where have you come?" And Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro the earth and for walking up and down on it. Excuse me. And God says, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on earth? And Satan answered to the Lord, does Job fear God for no reason? Stretch out your hand. We know the passage, right? So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord, and that's similar in Job too. So here's how Satan is one of the sons of God. He's a divine being. He's an angel reporting to Yahweh. Okay, in the Tanakh, he reports to Yahweh. He does not act on his own initiative or oppose God. He questions Job's motives, as a prosecutor might. And he has to receive explicit permission from God to afflict Job. Okay? This is a test of loyalty. It's not an act of rebellion. All right. Satan reports like a subordinate on patrol and leaves from the presence of the Lord after receiving orders. There's no evil intent independent of God's will. And that's the difference between the Tanakh and the New Testament in Christianity. Satan is completely different. You look at Zechariah 3:1-2. Then he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan, Satan, standing at his right hand to accuse him. And the Lord said to Satan, the Lord rebuke you. O Satan, the Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. It is not a brand plucked from the fire. So this is a heavenly courtroom scene. Okay. And Satan stands as the accuser. He's a prosecutor against the high priest Joshua, who represents the people. And the Lord rebukes him again. But again, Satan functions within the divine system. He's not an eternal enemy like Christianity has. 1 Chronicles 21:1, with a parallel in 2 Samuel 24:1 for contrast. Then Satan stood against Israel and incited David to number Israel. Compare that to the earlier account. Again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he incited David against them. 2 Samuel 24:1-26. So the same event is attributed sometimes to God directly as divine judgment, and sometimes to Satan. And that shows Satan as an instrument of God, God's agent, carrying out divine will. He's not acting in opposition. There is no autonomy there. And other Old Testament uses of Satan are purely functional and non-supernatural, like an angel blocks Balaam's path as an adversary, right? Like in Numbers 22:22, 32, or human opponents are called Satan. 1 Samuel 29:4, 1 Kings 11:14. There is zero mention in the Torah, most prophets or writings, of a fallen angel, a serpent in Eden as Satan, or any eternal opponent running around attacking people. Evil exists, but it's not personified as a rival to God. And so if you look at the Jewish belief today and historically in rabbinic tradition, context continues this view. Satan, which is an evil inclination, is either a metaphorical force for temptation within humans or a divine servant whose job is to test, to accuse, or seduce people so that free will and moral growth can occur. And God deploys Satan, but Satan has no independent power and ultimately serves God's plan. The medieval thinkers like I think it was called the Maimonides, saw that Job, his dialogue was parabolic. It wasn't literal. There's no devil running hell or warring against God. Judaism rejects this dualism. And so there's a gradual shift from the Judaic Hebraic Satan to a modern Christian view. And that understanding began to evolve during the intertestamental period. Roughly, I think it was about 4,000, or not 4,000, around 400 BCE to first century CE. And that was after the Babylonian exile and under the Persian Greek influence. Jews encountered these dualistic ideas, Zoroastrian dualism, and that was a cosmic struggle between a good God and an evil spirit. Canonical books, I think the Jewish writings were from the Apocrypha, and they have I think some of the Apocrypha writings, they introduce more of a developed idea of evil angels and a malevolent leader. If you look at the text, like the book of Enoch, first Enoch, especially the book of the Watchers, they reinterpret Genesis 6:1-4 as the sons of God marrying human women as fallen watchers who teach forbidden knowledge and corrupt humanity. And then you have the leaders, sometimes later linked to Satan's, mastermind head rebellion angels who are cast down and bound. And these ideas spread in Second Temple Judaism and included groups like the ones that follow the Dead Sea Scrolls, and Satan shifted from a prosecutor to a more adversarial demonic figure heading evil spirits. I think other works like Jubilees, called Satan the Chief of Demons, I think somewhat still under God's control, but increasingly becomes more oppositional. And so by the time of the New Testament, which was written in Greek, first century CE, the concept of Satan transformed under these influences and under early Christian context. And so now you have Satan without the ha, the definite article, is treated more like a name. It's equated with the devil, Greek diablos, which is the accuser or slanderer, the ancient serpent, linking to Genesis 3 and Revelation, and the tempter of Christ, right? And he's the God of the world in 2 Corinthians 4:4, and the prince of the power of the air in Ephesians, and rulers of demons in Matthew, and a deceiver who prowls like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour in 1 Peter. Christ says, "Get behind me, Satan." We know all the passages, right? Treating him like an opponent. And Revelation depicts a heavenly war where Satan and his angels are thrown down. The early church fathers, they linked Isaiah, the morning star, Latin, Lucifer, to a fallen angel. And later traditions solidify Satan as a rebel who fell through pride, now in direct, I think, ultimately doomed opposition to God, tempting, possessing, and warring against believers until the final defeat. But again, this is changed. It's a gradual shift. It was rooted in post-exilic style cultural changes, amplified in Second Temple literature. And then it was crystallized in the New Testament and elaborated in Christian theology. Judaism largely retained the original Tanakh view. Okay, Satan is a title; it's not a person. People can be Satan; it's an accuser, a tempter. And so Christianity developed an adversarial devil-type figure that became more culturally dominant in the West. And that reflected a broader theological difference between Judaism's absolute monotheism, where God is all control, versus Christianity's emphasis on cosmic redemption from evil powers through Christ. There's a lot of differences between Judaism and Christianity. But it's pretty interesting how a lot of these things within Christianity departed radically from the Torah, departed radically from Judaism, when it's supposed to be a continuation of Judaism. It's just not. It's just not. There's so many different elements within Christianity that are in direct violation of the Tanakh. So you just look at Job. The question is, why do the innocent righteous suffer if God is good and just and all powerful? When you have a person who is blameless and upright, but he endures catastrophic losses. And, a lot of these things, again, you have either Satan who's running around doing these things. You got to think about Job. The story about Job, God gives Satan the ability to do these things. Well, in the Tanakh, Satan's actually working on behalf of God. He's not somebody who's basically running around in the Christian belief as an accuser, but also in opposition of God, and he's going to go up and get permission. Well, no, he doesn't need permission. See, that's what people are missing is in Judaism, Satan wasn't an independent force going in rebellion against God, doing his own thing. That's not how Judaism perceived things. They perceived things as a courtroom type prosecutor. He worked for God. He works for God. And so, when you have you have the Hebraic concept rooted in Judaism, and then you have a drastic change from this Hebraic God, the God of the Israelites, to a God of more of a Greco-Roman Platonic fundamentalistic belief system. Not even the same belief. I mean, it's so radically different, Things have changed dramatically. I mean, look at Orthodox Christianity today. The Trinity, for example, the teachings of the churches. Do you think that's a continuation of Judaism? It's just basically took things a little bit differently and maybe wrote things on your heart, continue the law. No, it's a stark change from the Jewish understanding of who God is to a modern Greek Platonic belief system, right? So just little things like, pretty much everything. It's revolutionary, the differences. And I don't agree with Judaism. I mean, a lot of Judaism came out of exile from Babylonian times, so I don't think the Judaism that we have today is really the same Judaism that Christ followed. I think a lot of it's drastically changed. But there's so many differences between Christianity that what Christ and the apostles actually followed and the Tanakh contained, so many differences. Christianity emerged from Judaism, but again, it was a spin-off. It was a messianic Jewish sect, basically, kind of like spinning off. But it grew distinct over the centuries, right? It wasn't a sudden split, but it was a complex divergence. It had theology, practices, you had demographics included, you had historical events that were included. But a lot of it came out of Roman occupation. And so the Christians reinterpreted Jewish scriptures through the lens of their belief systems and their language. So just when people start looking at the shift between the Hebraic God and the Christian God, you'll see the striking contrasts. The problem is people don't really want to investigate Judaism because it's considered the enemy. The Jews rejected Jesus, so we have to reject everything about Judaism. Well, then you're really not going to have any fundamental understanding of Christianity because that's where it was birthed from, right? But the problem is once you start looking into Judaism as a foundational starting point, you'll see that things just don't merge. Things are a real departure from what Christianity is today. Okay. So again, a lot of things are different. Look at Orthodox Christianity today. The belief system is not even recognizable. Okay. Of course, the Jews reject Christ, and that's prophesized apparently in the New Testament, but the belief system is just strikingly different. And Satan, again, is one of these things that is very different between the Jewish belief of Satan and Christianity. Okay. And it makes a lot more sense. I mean, it makes sense to have somebody who actually is an accuser, a prosecutor, that's accusing people. Instead of having a demon running around out of God's, basically God can rein him in anytime he wanted to, apparently, but he's letting people get killed. And see, that's just not how it works. Not at least in Judaism. He's working for God. He's testing people. He's working on behalf of God. He's not like running around doing his own thing, as in Christianity has him. And basically God's just letting him, like, he can't really control him. And people are like, why can't God control him? Well, again, he's an agent of God in Judaism. God allows certain things, like, taking the census, and God will allow it, and then Satan will do it, but he has to get permission. He can't just do things and then people are wondering what happened, right? So again, in the Old Testament, the Ha-Satan is not a proper personal name. It's a title or a descriptor, meaning adversary or accuser or opponent. And again, usually it occurs with a definite article, ha, the adversary. So people that are interested can read on this and, take that into consideration on a lot of things. But like I said, with me, with religion, and I've made the statement before, I don't really agree with any religion necessarily. I think all of them have flaws, but there is truth in a lot of them. The problem with religion also is it's kind of like a cult. You leave, people come at you. People come at you. They don't want you to leave, and if they do, a lot of the belief system within Christianity is very prideful and very arrogant anyway. Most of the people that are in Christian that I know, especially on YouTube, are very arrogant and very obnoxious. And I was one of them. Okay, but usually I don't care if somebody wants to leave. I don't take it personally and go and attack them. And he left. Oh, that shows a lot of fragility. That shows a lot of the people are not even. That shows fear. The people are not even comfortable enough in their own religion to just say, "Oh, bummer, I'll pray for him." It's more of an attack. See, people don't really have your back in Christianity. They really don't when it comes down to it. Because what I found is Christianity is filled with a lot of people who were broken before, and they've never really been restored. They're still broken, but they're angry, and now they carry a cross. And so they'll use their brokenness to attack you. And that's the danger of religion and why a lot of people turn away from Christianity, because some of the most evil, wicked-spirited people, the most malicious, mean-spirited people are Christians, unfortunately. They won't have your back if you leave or you struggle. They'll come right at you like vipers. They will. So then there's good people. There's good Christians. There's good people all over. But what I found, especially within the realms of YouTube and TikTok, I had to delete my TikTok account because it was just too toxic, man. Just too wicked. It's just mean-spirited people. And so, when you take a risk and engage with people on live streams and stuff, they are not really interested in having a community. But if something happens to you, whatever, they'll come at you and try to drag you through the mud and make videos and just basically attack you individually, because that's just how it rolls. So it's a liability a lot of times. A lot of people don't really want to divulge information or get personal because a lot of people are very mean-spirited. And so, I have no doubt. Like I people have sent me messages. Oh, certain people. I don't care if people want to get mad if I leave. I wouldn't care if somebody left. This just shows that a lot of people have really no lives or something. Because if somebody left biblical Unitarianism or became a Trinitarian, I wouldn't care. That's their deal. It doesn't affect me. You have to be really sensitive for somebody to leave and then you get triggered. Like that really shows mental issues, in my opinion. I really don't care if people have an opinion on whatever. They want to be a Trinitarian, be one. You want to be a oneness, be one. Has no effect on me. But like I said, the problem is Christianity is like a little cult. Everybody's got their own little cult. Oh, did you see so and so? They became a oneness. Well, who cares? Like, really, who cares? It's just a little group of all these pockets, and everybody's got their own little membership. And that's the sad part about religion. It really is sad because people are monitoring other people. People keep tabs on other people, and they will come at you like vipers if you step out of line. And that's the evil and wickedness within a lot of these fundamental cult groups of Christianity and other religions. Okay. And churches are the same way. A lot of people are turned off because you go in the churches, they gossip, they talk about you. So and so, did you hear about so and so? It's very ungodly, And so a lot of people have a lot more comfort when they're actually not being influenced by outside forces or the churches or bounced around, because again, everybody calls themselves a Christian within these groups and nobody agrees. So their opinion doesn't matter to me. I don't care what people say about me. I don't care about what people say about what I believe. I don't care because they're a dime a dozen. They're nobodies. Okay. The next person down disagrees with what they believe. So, if people are honest with themselves, the problem is people are not. They have a lot of fear because they don't know what to do. And when you start understanding that your belief that you hold dearly has flaws in it, a lot of people are not willing to step up and acknowledge that. They will attack somebody. They'll, out of fear or frustration or whatever. They don't want to admit that what they believe has a lot of issues. And so with me, I'm a realist. I have to be up in front with what I believe. I just can't believe in something because somebody tells me something. And I certainly won't, like my videos when I made them, I left, I said, I have no ill will against anybody that wants to be a Christian. I'll never attack their faith. It doesn't really matter to me, but they'll attack me if I leave. People will attack others if they leave, because again, a lot of people within Christianity are very cult-like and very mean-spirited people, because the religion itself has people in it that were broken, that were mean-spirited, that were just bad people or whatever, and they come into Christianity, but they never got it right. They never got things figured out. They call themselves a Christian, but they have that same mean-spirited mindset they had before. They've never corrected that. So, other people in the world who maybe are good people in general, they don't necessarily feel like they have to seek out religion because everything's going good for them. They haven't maybe been broken down by drugs or got involved, in heavy gambling debt or pornography or whatever. They've actually led pretty decent lives. So the people that are in Christianity, it's filled with people who have been broken in the past. They've come over and been involved in some of the worst things ever, prison, whatever. And unfortunately, a lot of these people haven't corrected themselves. They're still in it, but they're still walking, and they still will come at you with that mean-spirited vigor. And so you have to be careful with, and I've had my share of problems in the past with things, and stuff. And I've tried to correct a lot of these things. But a lot of people will come at you personally and attack you personally because, again, they're mean-spirited people. And I'm not going to name names. I'm speaking as just right across the board. I've seen that in churches today, mean-spirited people, Christians. And you shake your head. You're like, man, just look on YouTube. Look at TikTok. You look at TikTok and look at how they attack people. Look at YouTube and how they attack people. So there's no kind of a group that gets together and talks about spiritual things, or how can we have your back? How can we reach out to you? They don't care about you. Okay? They do not care about you as a person, really. If they did, they'd spend a lot of times trying to unite and care about your lives or care about you. They don't care about it. They care more about beating the Trinity or, promoting a group or whatever. That's really all they care about. They don't really care about you. They don't care about investing in you. But what they do have no problem with is if you leave or whatever, they'll attack you. So it's a liability. There's nothing for you, really. There's no benefit. As long as you're with the group, cool. But, some people within the group that you have to agree with exactly what they believe. If you don't agree with exactly what they believe, then they'll make videos about you or attack you or, whatever. I want nothing to do with these people in general anyway. Like they have a screw loose. Okay? These people are just nuts. But if people are honest with themselves, they will look at the gradual change of religion and Christianity and others and see how things change. And that's okay. It's okay to have change. But you have to be honest with yourself and admit the Bible has problems with it. And that's okay. I don't believe the Bible is the actual word of God. Nobody with a couple of brain cells that they can fire together should believe it's 100%. Okay, because obviously you have changes. You have adoptions, you have forgeries, you have books taken out, added, put back, councils, creeds, decisions. Come on, this is something that's not, it's not rocket science to figure out that there's a lot of problems on how the Bible came to be. Okay. And that's okay. Again, like I've said in my videos, I have no problem believing in a flawed book because that's mankind's best attempt at trying to understand God and work towards understanding God. And God may be revealing himself through people. But you have to have a screw loose, in my opinion, to believe it's kind of like the King James only people that believe it's not. Just God gave me this Bible and that's it. That's hand delivered to me by God. I've noticed that a lot of Christians are nuts. Okay, I'm sorry, but a lot of them are nuts. It attracts a lot of crazy people. And so I really, going through religion and like, one thing that really turned me off was when I went on channels and debated like Trinitarians and others. I saw how intellectually dishonest they were. They would flat out lie to you, or just it's like something so obvious is there, and they would just lie and make it up. It's like they were possessed or something, like they were taken over by idiocy, like some type of demonic spirit or something. I don't know. It was just, I got tired of it. Like you could not have an honest conversation with these people because they would literally lie to you about what the Bible says. And so, I really think that, part of me thinks that there's a lot of demonic influence working through a lot of this stuff, and people have to take a step back. Okay, could the Bible be legit? Yeah, but you have to also be open to the possibility that you could be being deceived by the Bible, the way it came about, the way it was canonized, just because a group of people who, by the way, would murder you and persecute you if you didn't agree with what they believed. If they told you, hey, this is God's word, you must follow it, and you continue this, and you're following a book they put together, they lorded over people, they executed people if you disagreed with them, and now take a look at the churches today. And you as a biblical Unitarian have no problem believing in a book put together by a church today that you don't even agree with, that dominates the Christian sphere. To me, that's a problem, okay? From the very foundation of the Bible being put together, the canonization process, the formulations, the creeds, the councils, the very church that exists today is in direct opposition to your belief. And you're marginalized and you think, well, they're deceived. I have the truth. Well, I really think most people are deceived, And that's the danger of finding religion in a book filled with problems and errors. And like I said, I have no problem if people want to believe in it. I'm not going to attack a person's faith. I'm being real on this, though. I'm not saying it's a bunch of lies or whatever. I'm just saying that if you're a realist and you use common sense, logic, and reasoning, then you'll sit back and go, okay, it's messy. The way the Bible was put together is messy. I have 66 books because they took the Apocrypha out. If they didn't decide to do that, you would have the Apocrypha and you would be swearing up and down right now that that's legit, just like the Catholics. They believe it's God inspired. The only reason you have 66 books is because the Protestants took them out. And that's the Bible you were given. Okay, but it's all mankind's decision. God didn't say, thou shalt take out the Apocrypha. It's not, whilst thou in there, you shall take out the Apocrypha because it's not God breathed. No, man decided to do it. The Catholics still have it in there, which the Catholics have the majority of Christians today. They still believe it's God breathed, but the Protestants don't. They don't have as many books. And so if you're a Protestant biblical Unitarian, I have God's word here. Well, if they hadn't taken out the Apocrypha, you would be saying, I have God's word here. And it would have Tobit, it would have Maccabees, it would have the book of Enoch. And so it's silly to think that, the very people who coined the Trinity, who developed this doctrine, who established these churches, is the very book that you were given, the canonization process, and they had your best interest at heart. They don't even agree with what you believe. Okay. So when you look at all of the transformative things that have happened in religion and when it comes to Christianity, then you just have to be honest with yourself. And again, I think the best way to escape a lot of this individualistic lifestyles and trying to bounce around and find all of the groups that agree with you and go to this church and that church doesn't agree with you, and you go to this church and you're trying to find a church that agrees with you. I think the realistic way to approach this is, hey, the Bible has flaws. The Bible's flawed. It has problems with it, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be a perfect book. It's obviously not perfect. Okay, so you're either stuck with it's perfect, it's God's inspired and everything and it's perfect, and yeah, then you're okay. And then the Catholics have different books, you removed, Protestants removed them, you have the juggernauts and stuff. I look at it this way: if I was going to be a Christian and follow the Bible, I would just say, hey, it's the best we got. Okay, it's the best we got. It's mankind's revelation by God throughout, and God works through people, and it's something that God revealed throughout the course of centuries, and that's the best we got. People have found salvation through it. It's stood the test of time, if you want to make the case. It's helped people out, and so whatever power is in the book, I'm going to follow, but I don't have to take everything necessarily like verbatim. And I think that's actually a lot more powerful, because a lot of people have found the Bible to have massive issues in it, and they walk away. They go, well, I was told that it was 100% true and legit, but it has these problems, these contradictions. I just can't believe it anymore, and they lose their faith and they walk away. I think that's a bad approach. I think you're going to have a better chance of staying the course if you just understand that, hey, it's written by man, and maybe God revealed himself through certain passages and stuff, but it doesn't mean that everything is literal. You just you have to be very careful with that. I've spoken to a lot of people over the course of many years, and most of them have gotten to the point where they will literally lie to themselves to believe in something. They'll get to a point where they'll make ridiculous statements, and they'll believe the Bible, even if the Bible said that they were a pink unicorn and they were birthed from a tulip. They would believe it because the Bible says so. And when you point out certain things in the Bible that are contradictory or whatever, or that just doesn't make any sense, they just, well, I just don't care. See, that's okay though. I mean, if you want to be like that, that's okay. That's your journey. But I really think it's hypocritical to criticize people who have a legitimate argument against the Bible's canonization and the Bible itself. Okay. Because again, a perfect, clear book that has tens of thousands of different denominations, something's wrong. And so I know I've spoken to a lot of people, and a lot of people have left Christianity, or they're teeter tottering on it, or they bounce around, they don't know what to do. Because again, it's a journey, especially in the biblical Unitarian sphere. You're on your own, and don't think for a second the majority of biblical Unitarians will be at your side. They won't be. Okay, you might have a couple of friends on there, but really, it's kind of like a group of people that are that are that are claiming to be Christians, and I guess they are, but a lot of them think they're just better than everybody else. They're high and mighty. They're not really uh, forgiving people in general. They're mean spirited individuals, and so you see that day in and day out on these panels. I mean, TikTok, they attack, they love it because again, religion, especially this division between sections, creates just an argumentative spirit. You become very argumentative in your personality. You can't help it because on YouTube, especially, that's something that they do daily, and I used to do it myself. And when you go on and debate, see, I was never really much in debating. I never saw any purpose of it. I would get up and go back and forth with people, but I never really was like big on debating. I think debating's it's got its purpose, but for me, I'm just not into it. And so, but that's all it is really on YouTube. It's not people that get together. You never hear about talking about the spirit. You never hear about them talk about trying to walk and overcome sin. Really, never, never. Like you tune into a channel. Well, today we're going to elevate each other. Today we're going to lift each other up and praise each other and try to encourage each other to be better people, to encourage each other to be better Christians. This person has a problem with sin. This person has a problem with this. This person has a problem with this. Let's help each other overcome that. Let's get together. That's our goal. Can you imagine the transformation that people would have? But see, in biblical Unitarianism, really, it's a desert wasteland. You don't have that. So a lot of biblical Unitarians, and myself in the past, will fall into sin or temptation because they have no spiritual edification behind it. Everything's debating. You do not have a church really that you can go to. You do not have people that you can count on go to. Everybody's geared towards debating. Okay. So they're not looking out for you. And so you're basically like a lost sheep. You're wandering around and you're an easy target if you're not careful. And so if you spend a lot of time on these channels going back and forth, these people are waiting in the sidelines to devour you because to them, it's all about their channel, about drama. They want to make videos. It's about puffing themselves up and making themselves look good and tearing somebody else down. It's not about elevating you up. See, that's the problem. That's what I saw. It's not about elevating you. It's about tearing you down. It's about tearing you down. And so to me, I think if the biblical Unitarian side had more of an emphasis on trying to help people rather than debate the Trinity day in and day out, which I did myself. But again, that's a byproduct of biblical Unitarianism. There's no fruit of the Spirit on channels that you can get together, and because it's exciting. People get bored, I guess. I don't know. It's all about attack the Trinity, tear down the Trinity. Jesus is not God, da 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 da. I was guilty of it also, but what happened is you get tired of it. I got bored. Now, if there was a channel that encouraged people to be faithful, people to be I gotta plug my laptop in, people to be righteous, to be godlike, to be encouraging others, to try to live a pure life, then I think it slowly would become more it slowly would become more. Let's see, I'll plug my laptop in. More prominent. People would start following it more. And I think biblical Unitarianism would have more of a latch to it. But you're going to get some stragglers. You might have a couple of people that leave, but you're never going to have the church like they have today. Because the churches they have today, they don't even really talk about the Trinity that much. They're not obsessed with it, really. They're obsessed with trying to help people overcome sin, help people walk to be more like Christ and walk in that lifestyle. And that's the thing that biblical Unitarianism doesn't have. Okay. They don't have that. That's missing. So, yeah, the churches, they might teach a Trinity and they might teach a false belief system, but they very, very, very rarely teach it. I've gone to these churches before and they mention the Trinity a couple of times, but they're not pounding it into your head. What they're pounding into your head is trying to be more godly and more Christ-like and to try to overcome sin. That's their objective. But the objective of every biblical Unitarian that I know, really, go to all the channels. Go to all the channels. Go to them, mine included. It's all about attacking the Trinity or the deity of Christ or something. You never really have clear teachings about getting together and unifying to overcome sin, which is the most important thing in the Bible. Okay, so is it any wonder that a lot of the biblical Unitarians fall off into sin when you do not have a church? You do not have people looking after you. You do not have people to hold you accountable. You do not have people who even care about you. Is it any wonder why people fall away? And then what's worse is people will come after you. I've seen this happen to other people, not just myself, but I've seen it happen to other people. And they come after you like wolves and attack you mercilessly. Okay. So it's like I said, it's a liability because you belong to a group of people you talk to, but they don't have your best interest at heart. They're never elevating you. You're basically a group of people that are kind of like hitmen, and you attack a Trinity and all these other things, but they really don't have your best interest at heart at all. See, and so that's a real turnoff for a lot of people. And so, that's the danger, like I said, of religion, is it's fragmented so much. Even if they teach a Trinity in the churches, I look at what they teach and what the dry desert wasteland is. See, the problem with biblical Unitarianism is if you go against them, like I said, it's kind of like a cult. They will typically, demonize you or gaslight you or just attack you personally or whatever, because again, it's mean-spirited. The religion itself has a lot of mean-spirited personalities in it. There's no, let's just pray for him. Let's keep him in prayer. And that's what a true Christian should be like. That's what a true person that cares about you should be like. But that's not found in biblical Unitarianism, really, because everybody's an individual. Everybody's got their own thing going on. And that's a truth. You can deny it all you want. That's a truth. Mess up sometime and watch how you're drugged through, especially if you have a YouTube channel. Watch how you're just demonized by everybody and cast to the wind. Okay. Nobody comes after you and basically tries to reach out and help you. They care more about tearing you down and trying to destroy you. See, and that's the danger of a lot of these platforms, YouTube, TikTok. TikTok was really vile. I had to delete. Like I said, I didn't want any part of it. I was on there for a couple of weeks or a month, and it just was nasty, man. It was bad. And so, you have to be careful today because there's a mixture of men, women, everybody's reaching out. People are messaging. If you're single, you get messaged back and forth with single women, which I've had a problem with in the past. I'm single. Okay. Things get carried away sometimes. It's a problem. I'll never make that mistake again, but I got I got in trouble before in the past. Never again. I learned my lesson. But there's always people who, you just there's so many problems trying to just navigate throughout Christianity. You know, people don't really have their I's dotted and their T's crossed. They're how can you know like on TikTok, I messaged back and forth. There's girls, guys. I kept everything professional, totally legit. Like I'm not ever making a mistake going again, with women and stuff like that. That's one of my vices in the past, and I learned from it. Never again. But it's just something that you have to watch out for. But when you don't have a church and you don't have a structure, then you're people. You battle against flesh. You don't have something to remind you, because most of the time you haven't spent on doing spiritual things. You spent time debating or going against the Trinity. You're a spiritual newbie, basically. Okay, you haven't really developed spiritually. You're still you think you're a lot better than you really are. Okay, you're really not. You haven't advanced spiritually. You call yourself a biblical Unitarian, myself included, but you really haven't advanced spiritually. You spent 99.9% of your time intellectually learning how to beat the Trinity, how to attack it, but you haven't really done anything else. Okay. And that's the downfall of YouTube channels and religion and being a teacher. I don't ever want to consider myself a teacher. This was not a channel to teach. It was a channel for me to learn and basically push what I learned, and people can take what they want and reject what they want. But what I did learn over the years, engaging with all the channels, every channel that I went from channel to channel. No channel out there, no channel out there is on the biblical Unitarian side is preaching the fruit of the Spirit and trying to help you correct and walk in righteousness and overcome sin. None. That's not their focus, which it should be. That's the focus of the gospel. But people don't care about that, because that's not on their minds. See, they don't have the right focus, myself included. Okay. But you have people that are a lot wiser, that are better communicators, that should be teaching these things, that have a more prominent channel. My channel's tiny. This is my second channel. My first channel had a lot more followers, but it got taken down. But I'm not spiritually sound enough to teach spiritual things. I'm not. But I'd sure like to learn them. And so, but I can't get that from the biblical Unitarian side. I might be able to tune in on a church service here and there and learn, but it's not the focus. It's not the emphasis on biblical Unitarianism. It's just not. The focus on biblical Unitarianism is how to defeat the Trinity, how to learn about Hebrews 1:8, and that's all I taught. Go to all the channels. Go to the channels today. That's all you hear. You see the thumbnails of how they defeated the Trinity, how they beat so-and-so. Look at me. I defeated his arguments. On the day of judgment, it's going to be bad, okay? Because it's all a waste of time, and it's all a deception, in my opinion. Okay, it's a deception, in my opinion. We're given this book to waste our time and battle and argue and fight and not grow spiritually at all. At the end of the day, everybody's thirsty for spiritual growth and fellowship and communion and learning how to engage in spiritual warfare. And I see jack squat on all of these channels. Nothing. Nothing. It's a barren wasteland. Everybody does the same thing. They get on these panels after panels and they talk about the same thing. And you're not going to grow spiritually. Okay. If you want to remain spiritually inept and spiritually incompetent and gain a lot of wisdom, then good for you. But I'm not about that. I'm about trying to grow. And if I have to go to a Trinitarian church to do it, I will. I find that I would probably, if I was going to a Trinitarian church, even though I didn't believe, I would be a lot more spiritually advanced than I am today. Okay, because I really believe unless the biblical Unitarian people change their position, it's going to get bad. Okay, because you're going to have a lot of people wandering around with no leadership on spiritual things. You're just not, because their emphasis on attacking the Trinity. Okay, a small little group of people on a biblical Unitarian side teaching fundamentally about spiritual things, overcoming sin, maybe have 12 or 13 people tuning in, small, but constant, and somewhere somebody can go to, a place somebody can go to try and learn things, because you don't have really fundamental churches today in the biblical Unitarian sphere. You do a couple of places, but they're few and far between. I don't have any in Alaska. I don't see any here at all. But some people are more fortunate than others, and they do. But for the most part, you don't. So, you go to YouTube and other places, and that's a dangerous place because, again, you've got a bunch of people out here who want to be teachers. They're not really, like I said, they don't really care about you. They don't care about your life. They don't care about you at all. You go against them, they'll come after you. There's no love and forgiveness. Because, again, when you spent 99.9% of your time arguing, fighting, trying to learn intellectually, you are a spiritual retard. Okay, you're retarded when it comes to spirituality. So do you expect anything else out of these people? No, you don't. You don't expect anything else about these people except anger, hatred, malice, and attacks, because they have not advanced spiritually. They have not possessed the fruits of the Spirit: love, faithfulness, patience, things like that. And so they claim, a lot of these people claim a lot of these things, but they just don't have it. And that's the danger of, religion, especially in its infancy when it comes to biblical Unitarianism. I think that, out of the Bible, the biblical Unitarian belief, I think, makes the most sense, but it lacks on so many things. If I had to choose really between both faiths, like if I had to have myself as an island and believe in one God or believe in the Trinity and go along with, I'd go with the church and believe in that. Because to me, I think the Bible's flawed in itself anyway. And the churches don't really talk about a Trinity, but I would get a lot more out of the churches than I do get here, And so, I think a lot of people go to these channels because they're really looking for fellowship. They're really looking for spiritual edification, but they don't find it. Okay. And I think a lot of people get frustrated. I've been on channels before. They say they're going to start promoting this. They don't, because, again, it's filling the flesh. It's going on, getting that norepinephrine high. You had a debate. It makes you feel good. You fought with people. You argued. Cool. You got your argument out. You got your thrill for the day. And then you're going to go back tomorrow and do the same thing. But what a difference it would be for a channel to have, hey, let's work on the principles of overcoming sin, or what things to watch out for in life, financial wisdom, things like that. These are things that are going to advance and help you in life. But what you see on the channels today is attacking Islam. I cooked so-and-so, I baked so-and-so. It's a desert. It's a desert wasteland of nonsense. And my channel, like I said, I'm as guilty as anybody. Take a look at my channel. My channel's got thousands of videos probably. And none of them really, well, I've got some maybe on the Spirit, but very few were on what I'm talking about. Why? Because first of all, I've been through things in my past, not a lot, but I've been through things in my past that I'm not ready to be a teacher like that. I don't want that kind of accountability. I'm a nobody and I want to learn. So I'm not in the position to do that. Maybe nobody is. I don't know. Maybe that's why nobody's doing it, because everybody's got their own vices. But usually what people will do is they'll have you'll make a mistake, and people will find out, and then they come at you and attack you, but they've got their own skeletons in their own closet. They've got even worse vices probably, but they're covering it up by attacking you. And so even by years and years go on, people don't care. They don't care about you. They want to attack you. And like I said, I don't care about these people because I want nothing to do with them anyway. They're just not good people in general. It doesn't bother me really. What bothers me is the hypocrisy in the religion, and also just it's frustration, I think, too, because there's not really any place to go. There wasn't any place to go. Like when I was a biblical Unitarian, there wasn't really any place to go to unite and be edified spiritually. It was wandering around and going to channel and channel. It was always debate. I tell you what, on the day of judgment, all of us are going to answer for it. Okay, myself included, because we spent all of our time growing in flesh and being our own teachers and trying to elevate and use this as a hobby, when this is not a game. This is not a game in life. Okay, it's a very real deal. And one day you're not going to be able to go back in time and change things. So when you spent most of your time not learning about God, maybe, or trying to overcome problems in your life, or trying to be a good example, you spent most of your time trying to learn the Hebrew words, or learn this variant and research all the church fathers and stuff. How lame, and what a monumental waste of time that will be, and what weeping people will have when it comes to that, and when it comes to that realization. Okay, because the whole point is to grow spiritually. Eventually we're going to be spiritual resurrected bodies, is what the Bible says, right? And that's the goal. But learning intellectually is not growing spiritually. It's kind of like you have a spiritual book, and what do you do with it? You don't use it to become spiritual. You use it to become even more fleshly than you were before you had the Bible. Okay? Just because you have a book and you have the title Christian doesn't mean that you're going to automatically, through osmosis, become more spiritual when you read the Bible and start defending Hebrews 1:8. Okay, so just departing from religion itself, I become more spiritual. I feel a lot more peaceful. I feel compassion. I feel sad for a lot of people. But what I felt with biblical Unitarianism was just an uneasiness. I felt, because when you're around debating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, pretty much, and your channel's geared for it, you're never really going to have true peace, because you can't have peace when other people on the platform are not peaceful. When they're yelling, they're arguing, they're cursing sometimes, there's no peace. Like, that's walking into a room at dinner time when people are yelling and screaming and fighting. That's not a place you'd want to be. You probably want to walk out and get to the balcony and have a glass of water or something. And it shouldn't be any different when we come to these platforms. Just because they're talking about God doesn't mean that all of these things need to be eliminated. Like I said, your goal in life and my goal in life is to be as spiritual as you possibly can. That means protecting your mind, protecting your spirit, protecting your soul, and also not allowing yourself to be in contention with other people. And that's the problem with Christianity today on YouTube and other places, is there's no spiritual peace here at all. There's none. And some people are more advanced than others. Some people need it more than others. And we're doing other people a disservice if you have a channel and all you're focusing on is the Trinity or the deity of Christ and attacking doctrine. That's not going to help you grow at all. It's a misleading characteristic that we have with the Bible, because we have this huge mammoth book that wasn't around during Christ and the apostles' time. They had the Torah, but they didn't have this huge mammoth book that had all this other stuff in it. And now we have to sift through 780,000 words, which is all open to interpretation, really. And nobody really focuses on the fruit of the Spirit and say, walk the simple gospel. Repent and be baptized for forgiveness of sins. Believe in the gospel if you choose to believe that, and follow the teachings of Christ. That's the gospel message in a nutshell. But people don't follow that really. It's more online of attacking, trying to berate others, make videos. I've done, like I said, myself. I'm probably going to answer a lot to this because I did a lot of trolling. Because again, that's the fruit of the biblical Unitarian side. And I don't see anything different. Go to all the prominent channels on YouTube. Go to all of them, really. I know that Sean Finnegan's got a couple, I think, maybe in his channel. But see, the sad thing is his channel probably doesn't get the visibility because it's not full of drama. It's not full of debates. It's just basically a channel for, I think he's got a channel for a church, I think every Sunday or whatever. He does some good teachings on that. That's what they need. That's the focus, because that's going to draw people in that are going to be there for the longevity. That's going to be transformative. You're not going to change people's lives by debating the Trinity, okay? You're not. You're not going to change people's lives. You're going to create people that are apologetics, that want to debate, that are not going to be spiritually edified, that are just going to wander around. You're going to actually take somebody out of the church that has a church and take them out and break their faith and break the Trinity down and then leave them to the wolves. Okay, you're gonna take them out of a church where they have an established church teaching the Trinity. You're gonna show the Trinity is not true. They're gonna leave that church, and then what? You're not there to rescue them. See, that's the problem with the biblical Unitarian position is they have a mission, and they will come and get you and pull you out. But once you're out, you're on your own. There's no Red Cross to come and save you. You're on your own now. Okay, you might be able to reach out to the UCA and all these things, but the UCA also accepts Jehovah's Witness. See, and that's one of the things that I saw within that group was initially on their statement they had, "We believe that Jesus Christ is a man, a fully human being." Well, I wrote a letter to them, an email. I said, "How can you believe he's a full human being if you let people in there that also believe that he's Michael? Like, how can you believe that he's a legitimate human being if he's also an angel?" See, that was a problem in their UCA's the belief systems. What we believe. Well, again, the UCA allows people in there that are Jehovah's Witness. See, there's no unification there as far as a unified front for biblical Unitarians. And so, to me, like I said, I don't care. To me, I don't care what people believe. What I care more about now, to be honest with you, is my spiritual growth and your spiritual growth as a person. Things have totally changed for me, from my perspective, from getting out of religion and getting into what's important. And now I've seen all the thousands of times that I've spent frivolously wasting my time and not helping other people, attacking other people. I hope people can forgive me on that. Attacking other people's faith and other religions, it was not cool. And I feel bad about it. I feel shamed about it. And if I could go back in time, I would take it all back, but I can't. And so, I might delete my channel, or I might hide. It's going to take a lot of work to go and delete all my videos or tag them all and leave them private. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but maybe these videos in the front can explain some things. So I have no interest in attacking somebody's faith now. I'll speak about the problems that I believe the Bible has. I know a lot about Islam. I know actually more about Islam probably than I do the Bible. I used to study Islam heavily, more than I studied Christianity, but it's been a while. But I have no interest in attacking Islam either. I have no interest in attacking anybody's faith, because there's enough attacking already. Everybody's on earth. We have one life. We have a mission. We have a goal. And all I see is people attacking others, people belittling others, people breaking down others, trying to crush them, trying to bake them. It's not cool. It's not cool. It's anti-Christian. It really is. But the problem is most Christians are not interested in correction. They're not interested in hearing that. They live to attack others. They love the drama. They tune in like it's a popular game show. They can't wait. See, but the reason why is they are spiritually retarded. They have not grown spiritually. They're feeding their flesh, and their flesh loves it. But once you start realizing that you got to charge your batteries spiritually, otherwise you're going to succumb to the fleshly desires, because that can only go so far. When you're not prepared, you're not protected spiritually, you can fall for a lot of things. And so it's not surprising when you're surrounded by people who have not grown spiritually. They've entertained their flesh. They've debated, they've attacked, they've mocked, they've done all these things against people. And now you cross them. How do you think they're going to react to you? They're going to react in the same way they've reacted for years. Debate, contention, division, chaos, disorder, attack. That's the modus operandi of many people in the Christian faith. And so to me, like I said, I have a lot more peace now because I have no interest in attacking anybody. What I'm concerned with is people and their spiritual growth. And I know that if I attack a person's faith, I'm harming them spiritually because that's their journey, right? Even if I don't agree with it, there's so many different flavors of Christianity. Who am I to say that I have the truth, right? Especially when you're not spiritual yourself, okay? And that's the problem with a lot of people is within Christianity is a lot of them are very obnoxious and very arrogant and think they're a lot smarter than they really are. Yeah, I appreciate that. It is a learning process. It's a learning process. The problem is, thank you for that. I appreciate that. The problem is we all need to take a step back and realize we're all human beings on this planet for a reason. And we should be encouraging each other and trying to elevate each other and try to get people to be as spiritual as they possibly can. Okay? It does take time. It does take time. Yeah, and that's the thing, though. It takes time. But people, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. People have to take a single step towards spirituality first. And people really need to take a reverse course, I think, and stop all the attacking all the time of doctrine. Okay? And like we've heard it enough. Like if you've got 40 or 50 channels on your YouTube channel about attacking the Trinity, we all know, in my opinion, the Trinity is not taught in the Bible. If I create another video tomorrow attacking the Trinity, I've got thousands of videos. I don't need to do that anymore. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help anybody else. Okay, I think it's more of a fleshly desire and trying to gain membership and try to do that full time or whatever than it is for an honest, organic growth on your channel. So, like overnight, my desire to attack is gone. Like I have peace now. I do not have a desire to make a video to attack a Trinitarian. Nothing. No desire, no thought anymore. It's kind of weird to go like ballistic for all these years. And that was I was a militant anti-Trinitarian. And overnight, it's like I lost all of the desire. I have complete peace. Like I have no desire to attack anybody's faith. That's weird to me. Like something is weird about that. That's a spiritual peace that I can't explain. And I don't think you can have real spiritual peace if you're attacking somebody's faith all the time. Okay. I don't think you can have a spiritual peace if you attack somebody's faith all the time. There's something in there that's driven that you're more feeding your flesh, and you're more feeding your desire for contention and arguments, because arguments and contention can be very addictive. Okay. That's the downfall of it. And that's why you go through these channels today and everybody's attacking each other. You know, I was on the channel today and you've got Muhammad Hijab with God Logic and the Orthodox Muslim, and they're going back and forth, and they're calling, God Logic's wife a hoe and all. I mean, this just gets nasty. Okay. And so much backbiting. You think that's really spiritual? You think that's godly? No. So I think in life, what I'm going to do is, to me, I'm going to try and be as spiritual as I possibly can. I'm not going to allow these infighting and debates affect me. They don't affect me. I don't care if anybody talks about me. I don't care if anybody attacks my position. I don't care if somebody says, oh, he doesn't believe in the Bible per se. I don't care, because I've seen the result of what the Bible produces in many of these cases. And so I really don't care what certain people think of me, especially when they're hypocrites and they have problems themselves. Like, I don't really care about what people's opinion are of me. I just don't. I have a lot more peace now. But, now it's kind of a post wake up call of what to do. Like, I'm not going to take my channel into a preaching channel, because I'm not in that position. I want to grow spiritually. So I'm not in a position to be a teacher and elevate myself. And because, again, I think that takes great responsibility. And what I've seen with these people that have channels is they've misused that freedom they've been given, and they've abused it. They've turned these channels into a channel of divisiveness and arrogance. Okay. And my channel, like I said, when I talk about this, my channel was a bad channel. It was a channel of attacking, and it was fun. I mean, but it was feeding my flesh, and it was kind of humorous. I looked at I didn't see any wrong with it, really. I mean, I kind of did when I was making. I was like, man, this is kind of tongue in cheek or whatever. But I didn't really care because everybody else was doing it, kind of thing. It was stupid, but now I don't have a desire. Like, now I just, like, I can't believe I even made those videos like that. That's literally like a 180. Okay. It's kind of embarrassing to have the videos now. When I watch them, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like cringe. But I think when you're under the spirit of, like, fleshly desires, you don't realize your own idiocy. Okay. I was an idiot doing a lot of these things, and I wasted a lot of time. I had a lot of fun because I do enjoy doing AI stuff on the side, and I was able to fine tune a lot of my AI stuff doing that. But in reality, it's just a waste of time. So for me, I'm going to try and focus on growing spiritually, reading about spiritual matters, trying to encourage others and be more productive in my life, not be a sucker for YouTube. Okay. And that's one of the problems is what I noticed was a lot of these people that are on YouTube really have no lives. Like, that's all they do. Some of them don't work. Some of them stay home. That's their life. I can't do that. I have time when I'm off and I'm on standby or whatever, but I don't have the time that I used to have. Yeah. Anyway, this video was going to be on Satan and how the belief of Satan has changed and metastasized, really, from going from an accuser in the Old Testament to somebody who's in direct opposition of God in the New Testament. And so that's something that's changed within Christianity. Okay. So, there's many things that led me away from religion per se, but one of the biggest turnoffs, again, is seeing all the backbiting and infighting and no community within the biblical Unitarian spirit. There's none. Okay. TikTok was really bad. And YouTube, a lot of the same people, a lot of the same hypocritical people that are just interested in attacking you, not really interested in elevating you or whatever, mental issues or whatever. It's chaos. And so I know I'm going to have a lot more peace myself, just walking in righteousness and trying to do the right thing and trying to have a relationship with God rather than trying to debate and argue and fight and trying to be an intellectual. You're not going to grow. You're trading it off. You have on one side of the chart, you have a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 100 or 1,000. And on the other side, you have a scale of 1 to 1,000. And every time you feed your flesh, you add to that scale on the side. And every time you feed your spirit, you add to that scale. And what side do you have more on? Well, what I see on YouTube is I see very very little spirituality. All I see are people debating, fighting, arguing on panels. I see mostly fleshly pursuits. So when you have a bunch of people who are interested in fleshly pursuits and fleshly desires and not spiritual desires, when they come at you, are they going to address you spiritually and handle you with spiritual discernment? No, they're going to attack you with fleshly desires, in opposition, in attack mode, in debate mode, because they haven't developed spiritually. They're spiritually retarded. Okay. So you have to realize what you're dealing with. Somebody who's spiritually mature doesn't act like a lot of these people. They're very calm, collected. They handle things like an adult. They don't freak out. They don't start screaming. They don't start cursing and yelling. Like it's like listening to little children. These are not people that you should even give a second thought to. Like they shouldn't matter. Like what they believe shouldn't matter to you. Their opinion should not matter to you because you would never want to engage with them in everyday life. They need a lot of help. Okay. And that's the sad thing that I've seen within a lot of Christians is they're actually probably a lot worse than I've seen within atheists. If I know a lot of atheists, and if I had to say, I'm being serious. If I took atheists and put them on one side of the room and Christians, I would say that most of the atheists that I know are actually more Christian in their behavior and their attitude and spiritual life than the Christians on YouTube. The Christians on YouTube, a lot of them here are some of the worst people. Okay, unfortunately. Some of the most condescending, rude, and also just the most arrogant. And it's sad because they should be different, right? So, but like I said, people that I've heard, people talking about me leaving or whatever, a couple people, I don't really care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I wish the best for them, but I don't want to hear anything about me, about things in the past or whatever. I really don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I think somebody's pointed out, they sent me a snapshot of UCA saying they dumped me or whatever a long time ago. No, actually, I left them because they were hypocritical. So that was a lie. That was a lie. I left because I saw the hypocrisy within the UCA. I saw that on their statement of charter of belief systems, they said again that we believe in one God, the Father alone. And they got down to Jesus. We believe Jesus Christ was fully human, a human being. I saw that and I was like, well, that's interesting. They believe he's a human, but yet they allow Jehovah's Witnesses who believe that Jesus is the Archangel Michael. So I sent an email and I said, how is this that you allow Jehovah's Witnesses into the faith on the UCA side of things when they believe Jesus Christ was an angel? He's incarnated. That's not a human. And so there was kind of like a at the upper level, and they changed their statement of faith, I think, on the UCA page now for who Jesus is. I think they might have even taken it out or something. I don't know. It was changed though. And I just saw, man, it's just not cool. Like they're really not it's not really it is a Unitarian Christian, but it's open to anybody that believes. It's basically an anti-Trinity club, is what it is. Okay, it wasn't somebody that we can get together. Like, I really want to get together and talk to a JW if I'm a biblical uni. They don't even believe in the same belief. Everybody's going to get together. Again, it's an anti-Trinity club. That's all it is. And that's all the biblical Unitarian faith is, really. It's an anti-Trinity club. It's not people trying to grow from the grassroots up and try to get on the spiritual matters of things and get off the Trinity crack rock, get off the deity of Jesus crack rock. I realize they're important, but come on. You don't need to envelop 99.9% of your times on these matters. Okay. And again, that's my channel. That's how my channel was. But I should be learning from other people that have more knowledge than me, but it doesn't seem like other people really want to teach, or they don't have the aptitude to teach or something. I don't know. There's a breakdown in there. Okay. So, like I said, I want truth no matter what. I'm not going to believe in a book just because somebody tells me so. Now, I might read it and find out later down the road that, hey, I was wrong. I'm always open to that. Okay. So I'm not separating myself from the Bible. I'm not separating myself from Christianity or whatever. I'm on a journey. Okay. I've been down the road. I've seen so many problems within organized religion that I have to take a step back and have to figure out things. Okay. I see too much hypocrisy within the Christian faith and people who are too rigid to change when they're wrong. And to me, that's dangerous. I cannot go along with a bunch of people who do not care if they're wrong. Hey, I appreciate that. I think the Bible has a lot of great things in it. And most of what I've learned, most of what I teach, I learn from myself. So I learn from other people. So I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, most of what I've learned from other people. I read, I study, but some people have great knowledge, and I learn and I teach, and I hope I can pass that on to somebody else, and it can basically be a torch that they can pass on to somebody else. And so, to me, I think the Bible is intriguing. I think the Bible has a lot of good things in it. I think obviously the Bible has a lot of good knowledge in it. It's just there's too many things in the Bible for me to accept it as 100% verbatim the Word of God. Okay. I mean, if people are honest, they'll say, okay, yeah, there's problems with it. Okay. And it's okay. You don't have to believe it's 100%. Who said, like, really? There's nothing in the Torah or Christ's words that said that there would be a Bible put together, a compilation, and we would have all these things written down. Follow the gospel, preach the gospel, not compile a book. Okay. So, but that's about it. Like I said, to me, I think I'm going to take a break from YouTube itself. I've done what I needed to do. All my videos are on there. And I'm going to try to just walk differently now from this point on. But I wish everybody the best. I do wish, if you continue as a Christian and a biblical Unitarian or whatever flavor you are, a Trinitarian, I hope your focus is going to be more on the spiritual things. And I really hope you grow as a person. And I hope your spiritual life becomes something that's the most important thing for you. And that should be your goal, right? And I wish everybody the best. I wish everybody, safe travels, and may God bless you and continue to enrich your life and keep you on the spiritual straight and narrow. And watch out and try to develop your spiritual aptitude and increase in wisdom that way. Learning about certain translations are great. If you've got the spiritual things down and you want to take a little bit of a breather, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start focusing on your main priority is to be an intellectual, you might sound great on panels. You might teach well to others, but what you're doing is you're robbing from yourself, and eventually you'll be robbing from other people because you're not going to be increasing spiritually, which is what people are drawn to. Okay, the people that are really spiritually aware are going to be drawn to things that are spiritual. The people that are intellectual are going to be drawn to things that are intellectual because that's what they're targeting at. Oh, great. I can learn about this first. Let me pay attention. And there can be somebody teaching about forgiveness or overcoming sin in this video. And these people, the spiritual people, will be attracted to that. It's not as exciting. Okay, I can't tell you how many times when I was in the argumentative stage where somebody would be on and they'd have 10 listeners and they'd be talking about overcoming sin. And they were actually pretty interesting. But then I saw a debate on the Trinity and I go, okay, I'll go over here. See, and there's like 300 people watching. So you have the debate on the Trinity, you got 300 people watching or more, and then overcoming sin had like 10. Okay, so what's more important? Debating the Trinity or overcoming sin? Overcoming sin, obviously, but that's not what gets the clicks and that's not what gets the likes, unfortunately. It doesn't bring in the people, see? And so a lot of these channels, they know what they're trying to grow is if they started teaching on redemption, forgiveness of sin, and they weren't debating the Trinity, they would lose a lot of their followers because people will gravitate over and somebody will fill that void and they'll just go to another channel that debates the Trinity. Okay. If I was a Trinitarian channel, I would have a lot of followers. If I decided, if I went from a biblical Unitarian to a Trinitarian overnight, I can guarantee you, if I was legit and I didn't sound like I was a phony, my following count within a couple of months would probably double because there's billions of Trinitarians out there. And I would be seen as somebody who was a biblical Unitarian who left it, and people would talk. I guarantee you, people would talk about me all over YouTube in these social circles. Did you hear Common Sense Christianity? He left it and became a Trinitarian. See, that's how the word spreads, unfortunately, within YouTube. It's sad. I really don't care if people leave the faith. Like, that's none of my business. People are too busybody about other people. See, that just shows that they really have no life. So anyway, good popping in, Yaz people. I wish you the best. God bless you. Keep yourself, and I'll catch you on the flip side. I got to go, but I really hope study Buddhism. Nah, I mean, I've looked at a lot of things. I'm not really interested in religion. I appreciate that. His panim is paneh. May Yahweh's face, Jehovah's panim, shine upon you. I've looked at Buddhism. I'm not really, I think, I'm not really interested in exploring any other religion. Like if I'm going to follow a religion, it would be Christianity. I think Christianity has enough for me to keep spiritually guided and have enough wisdom in things. But there's just too many problems in it for me to accept blindly for everything. But I don't need to go like Buddhism and stuff like that. I think to me, again, that's going from the cooker to the fryer in a way. I appreciate that though. But I think a lot of things in Buddhism are you can find it in the Bible itself too, right? Or just be one with God and try to have a direct connection with God and try to walk in peace and love. And like I said, I really think that if people started focusing on themselves and try to become, hey, my objective is to be as spiritually sound as I possibly can, to watch myself. Wake up in the day, thank God for what you have, pray, God, give me guidance today, and try to guide me throughout the day and make your path clear and what you want me to do, and walk like that. Have a direct communication with God. Not be influenced by all these outside voices that try to steer you into a direction. Come to this church, learn about this, and then you go to that church, you find out that's not really what I want to believe. I go to another church. They believe in something different. Let's go to YouTube and learn. I think the real peace you're going to have is an individual trying to grow as close as you possibly can to God who's directing you, and to be as righteous and pure as you possibly can. To me, I think that is the true path. And I think when you people follow religion, sure, you can get a kickstart. You can, if you're not really spiritual at all, you can start going to a church and you can be surrounded by people that maybe have a little more insight than you. But for you to pick up a Bible and you're not in the church and you're in the biblical Unitarian side, you're really not going to grow spiritually. I don't think you're just going to be basically, you're going to be tuning into these channels, being brain fed knowledge, but you're not going to grow spiritually. And I think that if people started focusing on themselves and increased spiritually and eliminated all these outside voices and people tugging at you for your time and your effort, you would really become powerful, because you wouldn't depend on a lot of these things. You would depend on God. God would be your guide. You don't really need a lot of these people to guide you when you have God and you have that peace and strength. Then what you do is you take that as you become spiritually proficient and you get together with other people and you try to encourage and help other people spiritually as a collective. And that's one thing we miss out on as far as humanity is. We're all in our little ecosystems and our pockets of belief systems. We're not going out and branching out universally to everybody and trying to get everybody spiritually. Everybody's got their own little belief. Everybody believes they have the truth, but nobody can agree within all these little pockets of religion. I believe everybody has a direct connection to God, whether you're an atheist or whatever, through your conscience. And people who are spiritually more interesting or try to promote this more, they become more spiritually sound. They become more peaceful. They become more wise. They become more connected to God. Those who choose intellectual abilities, they grow in wisdom, but they're lacking in spirituality. And I think as a people, if we all focus first on developing our own spiritual aptitude first, then we'd be able to help other people. It's kind of like if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to love anybody else. Okay. If you do not have the spiritual aptitude yourself, you're not going to be able to encourage others spiritually. And that's what I see on YouTube in the Desert Wasteland. That's why you can't have these people help you spiritually, because they have not developed spiritually themselves. If they had developed spiritually themselves, they would be filled with it and they would love to share it with you to help you grow and encourage you, because we all know spiritual matters are far more important than fleshly matters. But what do we see on YouTube? No spiritual matters, fleshly matters. Because why? Again, these people have not grown spiritually at all. So they're not going to be able to help you spiritually. It's a bunch of people getting together, growing intellectually, but not growing spiritually. People need to take a step back, grow spiritually. It's kind of like being on an airplane and you run out of oxygen, and those oxygen masks come down. You put it on yourself. You take care of yourself first, because if you black out and you put it on your kids or your others first and you black out, they're not going to be able to help themselves, because you halfway got the mask on them, but you blacked out due to lack of oxygen. And so pretty much everybody's going to die. No, what you do is you take care of yourself first. You put your mask on yourself, and then you can help others. So if you go out and live a spiritual life and try to become a spiritual person, then you're going to be filled with love and kindness and these spiritual things that matter. And you're going to be able to help other people and encourage them. And they can learn from you spiritual. And they can take that and learn from others and see that in you and see the spiritual aptitude that you have in you and the spiritual progression, and follow your example, or just tune into God and pray and have God lead them. But you don't see that again All you see today is physical, intellectual progression of the flesh. And so when you're surrounded by all of these people who identify as biblical Unitarian, and you have a falling out, maybe you fall into sin something and somebody finds out something about you or whatever, and that's going to be everywhere, and everybody will mock you and everybody will attack you because they're not spiritually there for you. They're there to attack you personally and physically or whatever. They don't care about you as a person because they haven't developed spiritually themselves. Okay, that's the danger of a lot of these things is you're in a world where it's a spiritual battle, but you're engaging with people who are spiritually insufficient. Okay, I can say very clearly, I know that most of the people on YouTube that I engage with are not spiritually proficient, myself included. They're not there. They're not even spiritually, they have no spiritual discernment really at all. They're spiritual, no, they're like babies when it comes to spiritual matters. Some of them are very smart. Some of them have they've studied, but as far as spiritual people, they're like babies. So you can't expect a baby to be able to handle things spiritually about anybody. They're going to act like a little child. They're not going to handle things maturely. They're going to gossip and gaslight and ostracize and ad hom attack you because they are little children themselves when it comes to spiritual matters. They react in the flesh. They act like children. That's just how it is. Okay? It's just common sense. And that's the sad thing about it. Funny, yeah, panim. Well, it's plural, it's singular in meaning, but you can have faces like panim, pane, right? Panim, pane, singular with a plural with a singular meaning. But yeah, it's kind of funny. A lot of the Hebrew words are plural, but singular in meaning. Okay, like Elohim is another, or not Elohim, but Achad is singular, plural, but singular in meaning. You know. So yeah, face. Kind of interesting how they have the Shema. You know, how they don't, if they wanted to believe that God was actually three, they would have a shalosh in there somewhere, but they don't have anything like that. Odd how the word three or the number three never even made it into the Hebrew Shema. How's it go? I do it by memory. It's Shema Israel. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, v'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol lavacha, v'chol nafshecha, v'chol me'adecha. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord our God with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your might, with all your soul. But there's no shalosh in there. There's no shalosh b'chad shalosh, or shalosh b'chad achad, something like that. That's how you would say that God is three in one. You would say shalosh et shalosha ba'achad. That's how you would say it. That God is three in one. Nothing like that though. So anyway, but yeah, I wish everybody the best. Like I said, pray for me. I need it. I don't care if you're a Christian, Muslim, whatever. Prayer, that's the one thing I think with people is prayer is something that helps. I think it really does, but I think it's because we are a unifying force as spiritual people. I don't think God's basically going, okay, well, they prayed extra hard for that person, I'm going to work things. No, I think prayers work because we're all spiritual. Our spiritual energy can work through people because I think God's spirit is in us. I think God's spirit is in all of us. And I think when we pray, I think a lot of that spiritual energy can manifest and help people. I do. So I think we have a lot of it wrong. I think we believe that that we can, as individuals, go and heal people. I guess that's possible. Whatever. I think what's more probable is God has given us all a connection to Him. Some people are more spiritual than others. Some people are not. Some people have a connection to God because they've walked in righteousness. They try to advance. They grow spiritually. They have more spiritual power than others. They have more energy. They have more aura. Other people who are engulfed in sin that do things, they're not. They're spiritual delinquents. And so I think if you took a bunch of people that were very spiritual, like literally, like they focused on godly things and that's all they really did, and they were trying to be as righteous as they possibly could, they overcame a lot of these things. I really think they could change. I mean, I think they have a spiritual power because I really believe that that power that's in them is God's presence, God's connection. And so I think they could possibly heal and do things because they have a spiritual presence in them that heals. And that's why a collective society that has a lot of people that are very spiritual is beneficial. When you start having people that are not spiritually sound, people that focus more on the flesh, that spiritual thing, the aptitude goes away and people are not spiritually connected anymore. It's more fleshly. And that's why I think that you don't see a lot of the healings today in the world, is because people are driven by flesh. You don't really see people with a desire for the spirit. You see people with a fleshly desire, and that's really all you see, sadly. But hey, I got to go. With that being said, God bless you. Peace, love, and blessings, and catch you on the flip side. This probably will be my last video I do for a while, even though I think I said my last video. I might. I don't know. It just depends on what I have going, but I have no real intention on doing a lot of videos. If I do, maybe it'll be on my journey or maybe on learning about certain things, but that's what you do. You're a Buddhist. You follow Buddhism. Interesting. Yeah. Well, like I said, everybody's got their own path, and whatever brings you enlightenment, man, that's good. All right. God bless. Peace. And I'll probably be around. Like I said, I don't have any plans on doing videos, but with me, I'm very sporadic when it comes to certain things sometimes, especially when it comes to videos. And I might pop on and do one when I'm bored or willy-nilly or whatever. So take care. Until next time, God bless you.